Hello beautiful people, welcome to Ubuntu Productions Studio. This is Aaron Blanco Tejedor, and in this channel we make web development tutorials with a focus on simplicity. Yeah! And today we are going to do a Bricks Builder tutorial, and we are going to create a smooth, subtle and beautiful entry animation for your web page. We are going to do this with the help of the amazing plugin and extension for Bricks Builder, Bricksforge. In the Bricksforge Facebook community, somebody requested a tutorial about an entry animation, and the amazing human being and even better developer Daniele that had helped me in many stages of like the rebuilding of the web page for our agency knew that I had implemented an entry animation and tagged me in that post. So I decided that it was time to do a tutorial about an entry animation for your web page. That's what we are going to create today, and yes, let's build it. That's the entry animation we are going to be working with. But first of all, in order to see the evolution that took me to this animation, we are going to start from the inspiration for this animation. The first version that I made, that it was quite similar to the inspiration. We're going to look why do I change it for a more subtle animation. And then we are going to go to the Figma files and we are going to learn how to make this animation. So first of all, the first is the inspiration from this animation, and it comes from a user from Bricksforge community called Tyree. This is going to be a difficult one for me. Tyree Brown. Hello, Tyree. And he was sharing this video of an entry animation over here, and at the beginning in the project of rebuilding our agency webpage, this is what I wanted to recreate, and I took the effort to find one of the backups from when I was building that had that animation and bring it back to a InstaWP instance, and this is how it became. So it became like this, Ubuntu Productions. It was an exit animation and then an entry animation again. I decided eventually to change this animation for two reasons. First of all, you can see that the line here is visible, the limit between both triangles. And then the other reason is that it felt a little bit too aggressive for the vibe of my web page. So that's how we ended up settling down in this exit animation, that it has a random emoji. And then, InstaWP is crashing. So first of all, what are we going to build? And for that, I think it's always good to go back to the design program. In this case, we are going to do it with Figma over here. And this first file is the entrance animation that we see over here without the text. And in this second frame, we have like the different, how do you call it, like steps that the animation has to go through. This second and final animation has to go through in order to create the animation that we want. And we are going to compare what is the configuration in Bricksforge to the frames over here to see what we need to do in order to achieve this animation. The idea is that if you understand the concepts I am going to explain today, you can implement it to create your own animation or other intro animations that you want to create for the web pages that you make, build, or your customers' web pages or whatever. So first of all, we are going to do a little bit of analysis of this first entry animation to the web page. So what do we have here? We have a triangle and another triangle. How do you create a triangle inside a web page? This is basically a div two divs that are normally a rectangle, and you apply a clip, CSS clip path. I will share this link in the description because it's a really intuitive way to create a CSS clip path. So in this case, we need a triangle that goes from corner to corner. So we are going to choose the triangle shape and we are going to go from corner to corner. And in this way, you converted a div that is normally a rectangle into a triangle. All you need to do is to copy this code over here, down here, you see, this code over here, and add it to the custom CSS box of your Bricks div. This is the container. So we will create one, then we will create the another one, the opposite one, we will copy the code, and we will add it to the second container for the animation. What do we have then? We have this first triangle and this second triangle. And that's how you create two different triangles that they are going to separate themselves in the entry animation. Then we have the logo. Of course, if you want the logo to go in the middle, you have the extra complexity that the logo needs to be divided in two parts. How to do this? It's actually very simple. You just need two images. You need to place the two images absolute to the center of your div and put the div, this triangle over here, put the div with the overflow to hidden. In that way, everything from the logo that is not contained in that triangle clip path is not going to be shown. So basically you have two images, one over here and one over here. And that's how, and what we want to create is that two triangles that are joined in the middle that contain two images with the overflow from the image hidden, that they are like matching to each other. They will separate from corner to corner and then reveal the web page. What are some important, so it will go like this. Okay, sorry. Perfect. That's what we want. What are some important considerations for this? First of all, to these two containers, you will have to add to the custom CSS box to the same place that you added the clip path code. You are going to add a pointer events of none. What does it mean? That the mouse will never be able to interact with that container or with anything contained inside it. In that way, you avoid the user having any kind of interaction with your containers. And even if you make a mistake and the container after the animation never disappear from the DOM for some reason, they will never be able to interact with that. So it's like a safe word in that sense. What is the animation about? So the Brickforge plugin for the animation includes this green socks library, and we are going to use the property from to. And in order to use the property from to, we are going to say like the triangle goes from 0, 0, which is the regular position, to this position over here. Like it has to be hidden, of course. And you are going to just play with the controls until you see that it is hidden. It goes from the regular state 0, 0 to whatever it is that it goes away from the screen. You can take it even farther away if you want, just to make sure that it works in every screen. And then the same from this one. This one is also from 0, 0, and it will go all the way to here. So you will play with the controls in Brickforge until you see that these disappear, and that's how you are creating the animation. Once the animation has run and the two pieces are gone from the screen, you need to make sure that At least you turn the opacity completely away just to make sure, once again, that the user cannot interact with it. We already have a pointer events of none. We take away the opacity. And I don't remember if this is possible, but ideally you will put the display, once the animation has run, you will put the display of the 2 containers to none, just to make sure, once again, that the user cannot interact with that. And that actually, in theory, you see that is quite simple to achieve. So we will go over to Bricks and we will open Brickforge panel to see the configuration we have done for that. Moment to breathe. Oh, I love making tutorials. So we will open the Brickforge panel, and first we will look to the structure. So we have a wrapper that is a normal block containing the whole screen. We have a top that is that first triangle. We have a bottom that is the other triangle, and the top contains an SVG that is the logo, as we explained in the Figma. That one. And then a basic text that, for the way I did the animation before, the text was also like half in the upper part and half in the lower part. So I wanted to also be able to show the text, and when the screen splits, like the text will like also split. And then in the bottom triangle, we have again an SVG with the same logo, and then a basic text, Ubuntu Productions. Why are not we able to see anything? Because the first state of this animation, as you will see here, is the opacity 0. So, first of all, we give the text and the logo a opacity of 0. And then from opacity 0, we will animate to opacity 100%, and that's what we need Brickforge for. So we will go to the timelines, and we will see entrance animation. We have a media query rule that it says that it will only run over a screen width of 9091 pixels. The trigger will be the page load when the page is like load. And the selector is going to be entrance animation. That is the ID of the wrapper over here. It's not my goal today to explain exactly this animation because this was discarded. But as you see, there is only 4 steps that goes into Brickforge in order to achieve this animation. 1, that is that the logo and the text at the same time are gaining opacity and they are moving. The logo is moving in this direction and the text is moving in that direction, you see? Over here. And then it waits a little bit, and then the triangle together with the image and the text that is contained will move away from the screen while at the same time they are losing opacity. There. And playing with those things, you should be able to recreate this animation if that's exactly what you are looking for. But we are going to focus a little bit more in the new version of the animation over here. But before we go to the soul of this tutorial, I want to tell you a little bit about our first sponsor that is not other than myself. Because if while watching this video, you find yourself thinking, oh, this guy is a magician of the design. His builds are well structured and he follows best practice, and you need somebody in your team to build or design, please contact me. I'm available and I will make our next project sail like in a smooth day in the ocean. This animation is of course much more simplified, it's much more subtle, and it's much more smooth and, in my opinion, beautiful, at least for our use case. What do we have here? We are going to focus in the wrapper in animation, and you see that we have the wrapper, which is like the rectangle. Now we don't have 2 triangles. We don't need them. We simplify. And then we have an image. Now we don't have 2 logos, only one, and we don't have 2 text, only one. So we are simplifying a lot the structure, and we are going to make our life easier for ourselves. So what do we have over here? Let's open the Bricksforge panel. Let's go to the timelines, and let's see the entrance animation over here. So we have one logo that goes up like in opacity. So it goes from opacity 0 to opacity 100. At the same time is growing slightly, not much, subtle. And at the same time is changing the hue also slightly. Everything is quite subtle in this animation. Once those 3 things has like complete about the 1.5 second, then the whole wrapper is going to fade away until it's gone and the web page is rebuilt. You see, it's actually quite simple. We're going to look at it into Figma. Same thing, it's important that the pointer events is set to none in order so the user cannot interact with this element with the mouse. So we have first a wrapper and a logo, and the wrapper opacity is of course 100%, but the logo is 0. I have a 5% here, so you see it. Then in the second steps, we get the logo opacity to 100%, and the duration of this is 0.4, and the delay is 0. At the same time, we have a logo scale of 1.3 in the x-axis. Actually, this is wrong. This is 1.03 in the x-axis and 1.03 in the y-axis. The duration is a little bit longer than the opacity, is 1.4, and the delay is 0, meaning that it starts from this delay should be not 0, 0.3. It starts, the logo scale, it starts a little bit later than the beginning of the opacity, but it starts before the opacity ends. Finally, we have a hue rotate, which in Figma is much more extreme, like in the web page is even more subtle. That in the case of the web page, the hue rotate is 20, and then the duration is 1.3, and the delay is 1.3 seconds. And finally, the whole container goes to opacity 0, and this, it takes 0.4 seconds, and then the delay is 0 because it's starting from the end of the last animation. So those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps that the animation have. So I'm not going to show this time how to like build it completely, but I'm going to try to explain as best as I can how can you build it yourself. So if we go to the entrance animation, we see that the animation will only load if the page width is over 1367 pixels. I think I will reduce it eventually because this was set for the other animation, which was much more like it was taking more of the screen, but I haven't had time to do it yet. Then we have that the trigger is the page load, and the entry and the selector is the ID for the wrapper that we can see over here. So we are going to go like the logo. Originally, the image originally has an opacity of 0, and then in 0.3 seconds will go to 2. That's the property, an opacity of 1. That's it, simple. The logo goes from no opacity to 100% opacity in 0.3 seconds. Then we have the zoom of the logo. So the logo goes from a width of 150 pixels to a scale of x-axis 1.03 and y-axis 1.03. So it goes from like 150 pixels to a little bit more over here. Then we have a hue rotate, which is very subtle. Maybe you cannot even detect it. And the hue rotate starts a little bit later. It starts after 0.3 seconds. You can see here the gap, and it lasts a little bit longer than the zoom. It lasts for 1.3 seconds, and all you need to do is to apply a hue, rotate, and of course, like we could do it much more extreme. Just to show an example, for example, 180. We are going to save that, and we are going to see what's the result on that. Now you can see the hue rotate. Do you see it? And that's the hue rotate. So we go from hue rotate of 0, which is like the regular hue rotate of any element. And we will go to a hue rotate of whatever is like a good amount for you. And of course, this doesn't make sense for every logo, as my logo has the background like white, or actually a little bit of white. The hue rotate is not affecting that, it's only affecting the gradient. And I thought it was a beautiful like animation for the logo. And finally, we stop working with the logo itself, and we will work with the container, the wrapper in this case. So the container that I don't have a class for is, I only have an ID. It has a pointer events of none, as I was explaining, so the user cannot interact. It has all this, that is the gradient, and then it goes from opacity of 100% to an opacity of 0, and that's all. It takes 0.4 seconds to do that. The delay is 0 because I tell to start at the end of the animation that goes before it. So when this one ends, this one starts. That's why even though there is such a gap here, you are indicating that the delay is 0. You can play with that. You can play like, is the animation starting at the end of the last one or at the beginning of the last one? And then if it's starting at the beginning, you can put delay, so it doesn't start really from the beginning, but a little bit farther away. You cannot put negative delay. So in that sense, if you wanted to start at the halfway of the animation, previous animation, you have to put it from the start and then push it this way. You cannot put it from then and then do a delay, a negative delay. So you have to play with those things, but you see that actually it's not that complex animation. It's quite simple, this entry animation. There is one more thing we have to have a look at this, like how this animation is triggered. Like when I click here, how is this exit animation trigger? Like, of course, the entry animation is easy. It's just when the page is loaded, then it's the entry animation. But how is this animation, like exit animation triggering? You need to trigger the exit animation with, like, when you click in an internal link in a web page, but not when you click in an external link in a web page. For that, you need to create an event. Not a timeline, but an event, which is like a JavaScript action. And it says that, what is the event? The event is when somebody clicks. But what is that thing that people clicks? It's all over here. Like it has all this. So it's basically, I have been like refining the code just to try to accommodate as most use cases as possible. So how do we know what this is doing? Let's ask Chat GPT. And here we go to one of our sponsors of this tutorial. It's probably the second, the third sponsor, but who cares? Who says how many sponsors a tutorial can have? So we're going to use Voilá for that. So we will copy this and we will open the Voilá extension, which is, I really love it. I didn't expect that so early into the AI technology that is revolutionizing so many things. I will fall in love with a interface of Chat GPT 3.5 or 4, depending the plan that you choose. I didn't think that so early into this process I will fall in love with a tool, but what Voilá does is actually really nice. It makes like Chat GPT like a virtual assistant. You can ask questions, you can ask to define you a word that you don't understand, or in this case you can ask like to explain to you what this code does. You don't have to go to a new tab and open ChatGPT and everything. You have it straight with a keyboard. So shortcut Alt W, and as soon as you have that, it says what to do with the selected text. So I will ask, can you explain me what this code does? One of the things about this extension, Chrome extension, Voilá, is that it's really fast. It works really fast. Maybe like not with the answer. It's like it's limited by the speed of ChatGPT, but the extension itself works really smooth, really fast. It's really well designed and is really well thought out. I'm really in love with this. Can you explain it step by step? The first part, it says that, in other words, it targets links that contain our own web page in the URL. So only when we are navigating inside our own web page, the exit animation will trigger, not if we are going to an external web page. The second part starts with a note, and it says that the link doesn't have a hacks. We know that the hacks link is used to navigation inside the own web, like inside the page itself. So if you have a link that you want it to take to another section, that's a hacks link. You don't want those to trigger the exit animation because that would be a horrible user experience. So that second part of the code is doing exactly that. And the third part of the code is also a class exclusion note. We are saying that you don't trigger the exit animation when the path goes to upload. So we don't want to trigger the exit animation, for example, when we trigger a light box of a element in the media library. We don't want to trigger it because that's also our horrible user experience, that they want to open a light box and then the exit animation triggers, and as the web page is not reloading because it's not going anywhere else, you are stuck with the exit animation that doesn't do anything, and the user needs to reload the web page in order to enter again. So we are targeting like those elements that goes to the uploads folder, like don't trigger the animation. And you see the explanation over here. And you see that it's very useful, this Voilá extension. It's a really nice interface for ChatGPT, and it realizes the promise of having a virtual assistant in the palm of your hand. I will leave this code in the description because if you want to combine an entry animation with an exit animation, it will help you a lot to achieve that. It will help you a lot. I will leave this piece of code in the description because if you are going to combine an entry animation with an exit animation, it will help you very much to achieve this already with this piece of code. So I hope you found this tutorial useful. I try to explain in the most structured way how to do an exit animation and, an entry animation for your web page, in order to achieve that you understand how it is done, so you can recreate it yourself and create the effect that you want and that goes better for the mood of your web page. Of course, entry animation is not something that you want to implement in every web page, but those that require it is a nice effect to add. If you like this tutorial, please thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe to this channel, and if you feel like the time that I have put in this tutorial deserves some kind of reward, buy me a coffee. I will leave a link to buy me a coffee into the description, and that's all for now. I hope you have a beautiful day. Remember that only by helping each other and by loving each other we can create a more beautiful and kinder world in where we can live together in more peace and harmony. Have a beautiful day. Bye bye.